The sun had just begun to dip below the horizon, painting the city streets in soft oranges and purples. Emily Hartley, 28, walked briskly along the sidewalk after a long day at her small graphic design studio. Her hair was slightly damp from the light drizzle earlier, and she clutched her messenger bag, focused on getting home before the evening traffic picked up. She had always been cautious, aware of the little details that others often ignored: the crack in a sidewalk, a loose railing, a distracted driver. Tonight, that awareness would make the difference between life and death. Ahead, near a busy intersection, a small figure darted toward the street without warning. It was a little girl about 6 years old, her school backpack bouncing as she ran. Emily froze for a split second, then sprinted instinctively. A car came hurtling around the corner, its tires skidding slightly on the wet asphalt. The driver didn't see the child in time. Emily's heart pounded in her chest as she lunged forward, scooping the girl up just as the car swerved inches from where she had been standing. The collision was avoided, but the impact of the near miss left Emily and the girl shaking. Emily held the little girl close, whispering reassurances. "It's okay, you're safe now. Don't worry, you're safe." The girl, wide-eyed and trembling, clung to Emily, her tiny hands gripping the fabric of her coat. I thought I was going to get hit," she stammered. Emily smiled gently, trying to calm both the girl and herself. "No, you're okay. I've got you." Her voice carried a quiet authority, calm yet reassuring, a tone that made the girl's tears slow and her breathing steady. Emily glanced up, scanning the intersection. The car had stopped a few feet away, the driver shaken but unharmed, honking nervously. As Emily comforted the child, a man appeared, moving quickly through the crowd of onlookers. He was tall, impeccably dressed, and exuded an air of authority and command. His eyes widened as he spotted Emily holding his daughter safely. "Lily!" he shouted, rushing forward, relief and fear mixed in his tone. The little girl, Lily, immediately let go of Emily and ran to her father. Emily stepped back, brushing her hair from her face as she watched the reunion. The man scooped his daughter into his arms, holding her tightly, his eyes scanning her for injuries. He was flawless in his posture, a commanding presence, but his focus was entirely on his child. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" he asked, his voice steady yet full of emotion. Emily nodded politely, trying to fade into the background. She had saved the child, and that was all she wanted. Yet as she turned to leave, the man's piercing gaze caught hers. There was something in his eyes, a mix of gratitude, awe, and curiosity, that stopped her in her tracks. You saved her," he said, his tone both incredulous and appreciative. "Do you have any idea how serious that was?" Emily shrugged modestly. "I just did what anyone should do. She was in danger and I reacted. That's all." Her voice was calm, almost nonchalant, but there was a slight tremor betraying the adrenaline still coursing through her veins. The man studied her, noting her posture, her composure, and the subtle tension in her expression. There was a quiet bravery in her stance, a clarity in her eyes, and a selflessness in her actions. He could see immediately that this woman had acted purely to protect his child, with no expectation of reward or recognition. Thank you," he said finally, his tone deeper now, more sincere. "That could have ended very differently. My daughter's life. You saved it." Emily shook her head. "No one deserves to get hurt like that. I'm just glad she's safe." The man, still holding Lily close, exhaled slowly. "I need to know your name," he said. "I can't let this go without knowing who you are." Emily hesitated for a moment, unused to being thanked so intensely, especially by someone whose presence commanded attention. "Emily Hartley," she said quietly. The man's expression softened, a faint smile appearing. "Emily, thank you. Truly." He paused, glancing at his daughter, then back at her. "I hope one day I can repay you for this." Emily shook her head again, smiling faintly. "You don't owe me anything. I just did what I had to do." As she turned to leave, she couldn't help but glance back. The man, Jonathan Pierce, she would later learn, watched her with a mix of admiration and curiosity. There was an unspoken understanding that this encounter was significant, not only for the child but for the lives of all involved. The crowd that had gathered began dispersing, whispers spreading about the near accident. Emily walked away quietly, her heart still racing, her mind processing what had just occurred. She had acted instinctively, yet she had no idea that her simple bravery had placed her in the orbit of a billionaire CEO, a man whose life, influence, and decisions could intersect with hers in ways she could never have imagined. Meanwhile, Jonathan held Lily close, glancing at the street where the accident had almost happened. Relief flooded through him, tempered with the realization that one stranger's courage had saved his daughter. His mind lingered on Emily, her calm demeanor, her quick thinking, her fearless instinct. He knew, without fully understanding why yet, that this woman had left a mark on him that would not fade easily. Emily's walk home was slow, her thoughts heavy but not burdened. She knew she had done the right thing, yet she sensed that her life, and perhaps the life of the little girl, was about to change in ways she could not yet foresee. Somewhere in the city, a billionaire CEO was quietly acknowledging her bravery, and the ripple effects of her actions had only just begun. The night ended with a soft drizzle still falling over the city streets, reflecting lights in shimmering puddles. Emily's heart was calm now, yet anticipatory. She had saved a life, but the story was far from over. Little did she know, this act of courage would set in motion events that would intertwine her life with Jonathan Pierce, the billionaire CEO, forever altering both of their futures. The morning sun filtered through the tall glass windows of Jonathan Pierce's luxurious penthouse, casting a warm glow across the polished marble floors. The city below buzzed with life, but inside, Jonathan's focus remained solely on the previous night's events. His daughter Lily, safe in his arms, had been nearly hit by a car, and it was only thanks to a stranger's quick thinking that she was unharmed. Every detail replayed in his mind. The way the woman had reacted instinctively, how calm and composed she remained despite the danger, and the unmistakable courage in her eyes. Jonathan knew he had to find her. He couldn't let someone capable, brave, and selfless remain unknown, especially someone who had saved his daughter's life. The staff began to gather breakfast and prepare for the day, but Jonathan dismissed them politely. He needed to locate Emily Hartley, the woman who had acted without hesitation in a moment of crisis. Meanwhile, Emily walked home from the scene, her mind still racing. The adrenaline from saving Lily had not fully subsided, leaving her muscles tense and her thoughts scattered. She replayed the incident repeatedly. The car, the child, the panic, and the moment she had managed to pull Lily out of harm's way. A small part of her felt pride, yet she shrugged it off. Heroism wasn't something she sought recognition for. She had simply acted. The following morning, Emily received a call from an unfamiliar number. Hesitant, she answered. "Hello, Emily Hartley." A calm, confident voice asked. "This is Jonathan Pierce. You saved my daughter last night." Emily froze. The stranger's voice was authoritative, controlled, yet carried an undercurrent of emotion that immediately captured her attention. I didn't do anything special," she stammered. Jonathan's tone was measured but firm. "I disagree. You acted with bravery and presence of mind that saved Lily. I need to meet you, to thank you properly and ensure you're safe after what happened." Emily hesitated, unsure of what to say. This was the same man whose child she had saved, yet his identity as a CEO was unknown to her at the time. I can meet briefly, I suppose," she said cautiously. The meeting took place later that day in a quiet, private lounge near Jonathan's office. The room was elegant, minimalist, but the atmosphere was anything but cold. Jonathan stood, extending a hand with a subtle smile. "Thank you for meeting me," he said simply. Emily shook his hand politely, her own nerves hidden beneath practiced composure. "I'm just glad Lily's okay," she replied softly. Jonathan gestured to a chair. "Sit. I want to understand exactly what happened last night." I need to know how someone could act so quickly and so effectively in such a dangerous situation. Emily recounted the incident in detail. The position of the car, Lily's sudden movement into traffic, her own split-second decision to grab the child, and the precise timing that had prevented tragedy. As she spoke, Jonathan listened intently, his eyes tracking her every expression, noting the subtle confidence, quick thinking and calm under pressure. "I've never seen someone react like that," he said finally, leaning back slightly. "Most adults freeze. You didn't hesitate for even a second." Emily shrugged. "I just reacted. It's instinct. I couldn't let a child get hurt. I guess experience helps, but it's really just reflex." Jonathan's eyes softened. "Emily, do you realize what you've done? You saved my daughter." A moment later, and things could have been very different. His tone carried both awe and gratitude. Emily shifted uncomfortably, unsure how to respond. Praise from strangers, especially someone powerful, wasn't something she was used to. "I just did what anyone should do," she said humbly. Jonathan studied her carefully. "Not anyone could have acted like that. You remained composed under extreme pressure. You're remarkable." Emily felt a flush of warmth, an unfamiliar sense of pride mingled with embarrassment. She had never expected recognition, let alone from someone like Jonathan Pierce. The conversation shifted gently to Lily. Emily had developed a subtle bond with the child in those few minutes, and Jonathan noticed. "She hasn't stopped talking about you," he said with a soft laugh. "She keeps saying, 'The lady who saved me.'" Emily smiled, thinking of Lily's bright eyes and relieved smile. "I just hope she's okay now. That's all that matters." Jonathan leaned forward, his expression thoughtful. "Emily, I know this may seem sudden, but I'd like to know you better. You've shown qualities I deeply respect: bravery, intelligence, composure. These aren't qualities I encounter often." Emily's heart skipped a beat. The man who had just entered her life as a stranger now spoke with admiration and sincerity. She felt a strange mixture of awe and curiosity, realizing that their lives had intersected in a moment of extreme circumstance, binding them in a way she had never anticipated. Over the next hour, Jonathan and Emily discussed everything from Lily's routines to Emily's background. He learned she had once worked in accounting before a family crisis had forced her to step back, a fact that explained her quick assessment of the traffic situation and her instinctive reactions. Her intelligence, attention to detail, and calm demeanor now made sense, and Jonathan felt a growing respect that was both professional and personal. Emily noticed the subtle warmth in his gaze, the way he occasionally smiled at Lily, and how he handled the situation with authority and care. Something about him drew her in. His composed presence, his protective nature, and the genuine gratitude that shone through every word. As the afternoon turned to evening, they parted with the promise of staying in touch. Emily returned home, her mind buzzing with the events of the day: the accident, Lily, and the unexpected connection with Jonathan Pierce. She felt exhilaration, relief, and an undercurrent of curiosity about how this relationship, born of crisis, might evolve. Jonathan watched Emily leave, feeling a rare stir in his usually controlled life. Her courage, humility, and intelligence had left an impression that would not fade. He realized that this chance encounter could grow into something meaningful, not only for Lily's safety but potentially for both of them. The city lights flickered as night fell, and both Emily and Jonathan went home, unaware that their paths were now irrevocably intertwined. The incident that had begun as a moment of crisis had planted the seeds of trust, admiration, and perhaps the beginnings of love, a bond forged in bravery, nurtured by gratitude, and destined to face challenges that neither could have foreseen. The next few days passed in a blur of activity for Jonathan Pierce. His daughter Lily seemed oblivious to the chaos her near accident had caused, laughing and playing as if nothing had happened. But Jonathan couldn't stop thinking about the woman who had saved her life. Emily Hartley. Her courage, calmness under pressure, and instinctive reaction had impressed him more than he expected. Determined to ensure that he properly thanked her and understood the full story, Jonathan invited Emily for a private meeting at his office under the pretense of discussing safety protocols and some minor formalities. Emily, cautious yet intrigued, agreed. She didn't know the identity of the father at first, and only later realized the scale of the situation. When Emily arrived at the towering Coal Enterprises building, the grandeur of the office was intimidating. Polished marble floors, high ceilings, and expansive glass windows created a sense of awe. She felt out of place, still carrying the simplicity of her ordinary life in contrast to the world she had walked into. Jonathan met her personally in the lobby. His tall frame, perfectly tailored suit, and calm authority immediately commanding respect. "Emily," Jonathan said with a subtle smile, "thank you again for what you did. I can't imagine what would have happened without your intervention." Emily shook her head modestly. "It was nothing. Anyone would have done the same." Her tone was calm, but a hint of nervousness lingered. She felt acutely aware of the wealth, power, and influence surrounding her. Jonathan led her into a conference room with a view of the city skyline. "Please sit," he said. "I'd like to understand exactly how you reacted. I want to make sure nothing is overlooked." Emily recounted the incident in meticulous detail, explaining her perception of the traffic, Lily's sudden movement, and how she had instinctively acted to save the child. She described the split-second decision, the risk she took, and her relief when she realized both she and the child were safe. Jonathan listened intently, absorbing every word. He asked questions, not out of doubt, but to understand the depth of her instinct, intelligence, and composure. Every answer Emily gave reinforced his admiration. Her calm under pressure and quick analysis reflected not only bravery but a sharp mind capable of assessing danger and reacting decisively. Meanwhile, Lily played quietly with a set of building blocks in the corner of the room, occasionally looking up at Emily with adoration. "You saved me," she said softly, running toward Emily for a quick hug. Emily held her gently, feeling a sense of protective affection develop immediately. Jonathan watched this interaction closely, his chest tightening slightly. He had always been fiercely protective of Lily, but seeing Emily's natural, caring instincts solidified his respect and trust in her. This was a woman capable of extraordinary empathy, courage, and composure, a rare combination that left a lasting impression. Just as the conversation seemed to settle into mutual understanding, the door opened unexpectedly. Vivian Hart, Jonathan's former fiancée and now a senior executive at a rival company, stepped inside. Her expression neutral but her eyes sharp and calculating. "Jonathan," she said smoothly, "I didn't realize you were meeting someone. May I join?" Emily stiffened. She hadn't anticipated Vivian's presence and instinctively took a small step back. Jonathan noticed her discomfort and subtly positioned himself slightly ahead of her, a protective gesture that wasn't overt but completely clear in intent. Vivian's eyes scanned Emily from head to toe, a faint smirk crossing her face. "Ah, the hero of the day," she said, tone dripping with subtle condescension. "The woman who saved your child. How quaint." Jonathan's gaze hardened slightly, calm but decisive. "Emily's bravery and composure speak for themselves," he said firmly, leaving no room for Vivian's manipulation. "Her actions prevented a tragedy, and I value that. End of discussion." Vivian's smirk faltered for the first time. She realized that her attempts to undermine Emily, or to assert dominance in this space, were ineffective. Jonathan had made it clear where his loyalty and respect lay. Emily, sensing Jonathan's support, felt a surge of confidence. She straightened her posture, her voice steady. "I didn't do it for recognition," she said. "I just wanted the child to be safe." The next hour passed with Jonathan, Emily, and Lily forming a quiet bond. Jonathan asked Emily practical questions about Lily's routines, school schedules, and interests, all while noting her insightful observations. It became evident to him that Emily's intellect, attentiveness, and natural empathy extended far beyond the heroic act. She could provide guidance, support, and even mentorship for Lily in subtle ways. Vivian, watching quietly, realized her control had completely slipped. She had underestimated Emily, assuming the woman's ordinary life and modest appearance would leave her powerless. Now, every subtle attempt at intimidation or condescension had been neutralized by Jonathan's respect and Emily's composure. As the afternoon sunlight shifted, Nathan and Emily walked together toward the building's terrace. The gentle breeze carried the faint scent of blooming flowers from the rooftop garden. "You've got a remarkable presence," Jonathan said quietly. "I can see why Lily gravitated toward you instantly. You're brave, intelligent, and caring, all qualities that are rare." Emily felt a blush rise to her cheeks. She was unaccustomed to such praise, especially from someone of Jonathan's stature. "Thank you," she said softly. "I just acted. I didn't expect anyone to notice." Jonathan smiled faintly, a subtle warmth in his gaze. "I noticed. More than that, I trust you. That matters more than anything." Lily tugged gently at Emily's hand. "Can we play now?" she asked, her innocent voice cutting through the tension. Emily laughed softly, kneeling to engage with the child, while Jonathan observed. A quiet bond was forming, not just between Emily and Lily, but also subtly between Emily and Jonathan. The day ended with Jonathan ensuring Emily's safe departure. He watched as she left, her figure receding down the street. The encounter had started as a simple act of heroism but had blossomed into something far more complex. Trust, admiration, and the first sparks of emotional connection. Jonathan returned inside, watching Lily nap peacefully in her room, contemplating the rare blend of courage and humility that Emily had shown. He realized that their lives were now intertwined in ways neither could have anticipated. Her bravery had saved his child, and her character had captured his attention completely. The foundation for trust, respect, and perhaps romance had been laid, but the real journey was only beginning. The following morning, Jonathan Pierce had arranged for Emily to accompany him and Lily to a charity event, a casual gathering with families and employees of his company. He wanted to subtly gauge her interaction with Lily and observe how she adapted to his world without overwhelming her. Emily, nervous yet composed, arrived dressed simply but elegantly, her natural grace immediately noticeable. Lily ran ahead, clutching Emily's hand, laughing. "You're coming with me," she said, her small voice full of excitement. Emily smiled, feeling a warmth she hadn't anticipated, the child's trust and affection already forming a bond deeper than mere gratitude. Jonathan walked behind them, observing silently. He was struck again by Emily's instincts. How she handled Lily's small requests reassured her, and simultaneously maintained composure around the other guests. It wasn't just bravery in a crisis. It was a quiet, steady courage that shone in everyday interactions. However, not everyone was pleased to see Emily in such close proximity to Jonathan and Lily. Vivian Hart, who had been invited under the guise of reconciliation with the Pierce family, noticed Emily immediately. Her sharp gaze lingered as Emily smiled at Lily and interacted with other guests. A flicker of envy and irritation passed over Vivian's face. She had expected to maintain influence over Jonathan and now found a new, unexpected obstacle. Vivian approached casually, masking her intentions behind polite words. "Emily, isn't it?" she said, her tone neutral but laced with subtle condescension. "I hear you had quite the heroic moment recently." "Impressive." Emily maintained her composure, glancing politely at Vivian. "Thank you," she said softly, choosing diplomacy over confrontation. Jonathan stepped forward, sensing the tension. "Vivian, I hope you're enjoying the event," he said firmly, his voice calm yet unmistakably authoritative. The protective undertone was clear. Emily was not to be undermined or belittled in his presence. Vivian's eyes narrowed slightly, realizing that Jonathan's admiration and trust for Emily had already shifted the power dynamic. She tried a different approach, leaning slightly toward him. "I only wish to discuss some potential opportunities," she said, trying to assert her influence. Jonathan's gaze was unwavering. "This is a family-friendly event," he said firmly. "Let's focus on enjoying the gathering." His words were subtle but unmistakable, Emily was under his protection, and Vivian's attempts to regain control were not welcome. As the day progressed, Emily and Lily played quietly near the fountain, their laughter drawing warm smiles from other guests. Jonathan observed from a distance, his attention alternating between the child's enjoyment and Emily's effortless patience and warmth. He realized the growing emotional connection forming, not just between him and Emily, but also between Emily and Lily, a bond that would naturally influence their future interactions. Vivian, increasingly frustrated, attempted one last subtle maneuver to insert herself into conversations, hoping to reassert influence over Jonathan. But Emily, composed and polite, handled each interaction with calm intelligence. Jonathan noticed, his admiration for her growing, not just for the heroism of the accident but for the steady, authentic character she displayed under pressure and social scrutiny. Finally, as the sun dipped lower in the sky, Jonathan approached Emily and Lily. "You've handled today remarkably," he said softly, voice carrying both warmth and admiration. "Lily adores you, and I can see why. You're patient, kind, and genuinely remarkable with her." Emily looked up, surprised by his praise. "I just care about her," she said quietly. Jonathan smiled faintly. "Care like that is rare. And it doesn't go unnoticed." His gaze lingered on her, subtle, personal, and filled with unspoken acknowledgement. For Emily, the respect and validation were new but profoundly reassuring. Vivian, observing from a distance, realized her attempts to manipulate or impress had failed entirely. She had underestimated both Emily's character and Jonathan's perception. The subtle shift in dynamics was clear. Emily had earned not only Jonathan's gratitude but his respect and trust, creating the foundation for future connections. The day ended quietly, with Emily leaving with Lily safely in her care for the evening, Jonathan walking alongside them. The bond forged through crisis and nurtured in calm interactions had deepened, and a subtle, slow-burning connection had begun to form. A connection built on trust, admiration, and shared respect, untainted by manipulation or past grudges. The evening sky had turned a deep indigo, the city lights twinkling like distant stars. Jonathan Pierce held Lily's small hand as they walked toward the car, his mind still replaying the events that had brought Emily Hartley into their lives. Emily, walking beside them with a gentle calm, had become more than just a stranger who had saved his daughter. She had proven her courage, patience, and innate kindness in ways that left an indelible impression. Jonathan glanced at Emily, admiration clear in his eyes. "You've been incredible," he said softly. "Not just last night but today. Lily adores you. No, I owe you more than words can express." Emily smiled faintly, feeling warmth spread through her chest. "I didn't do it for thanks," she said softly. I couldn't let her get hurt." Lily tugged at Emily's hand, looking up at her with a wide-eyed grin. "Can you come over tomorrow? We can play," she asked eagerly. Jonathan chuckled, watching the bond between the two. "She'll be over," he said, glancing at Emily. "And I hope you know that your bravery hasn't gone unnoticed. You've not only saved a life, you've earned respect, trust, and something more." His voice carried a subtle weight, hinting at admiration deeper than gratitude. Emily felt a flutter she couldn't quite define, a mixture of relief, pride, and a growing sense of connection. The ordinary world she had known suddenly felt expanded, filled with possibilities she hadn't considered. That night, after Lily was safely tucked into bed, Jonathan and Emily found themselves on the terrace of his penthouse. The city stretched endlessly below, shimmering with lights and reflections in the glassy skyline. The quiet moment allowed them to speak candidly, away from the formalities and chaos of the day. "You've shown a remarkable ability to stay calm under pressure," Jonathan said, his gaze soft but intense. "Most people freeze, but you think, act, and protect without hesitation. That's rare." Emily blushed, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "I guess instinct takes over sometimes. I just react," she said quietly. Jonathan smiled faintly. Instinct, courage, and intelligence, all in one package. And tonight you've earned my trust, my admiration. And something else I haven't felt in a long time. Emily looked at him, curiosity and a hint of nervous excitement in her eyes. And what's that? She asked. Connection, he said simply, a gentle sincerity in his tone. You've reminded me of what matters, not just wealth, power or control, but integrity, courage and heart. You've made a mark that goes far beyond this evening. Emily's lips curved into a genuine smile. I don't know what to say, she murmured. You don't need to say anything, Jonathan replied, stepping slightly closer. Just know that your actions, your bravery, and your kindness have changed more than you realize. Outside, the city lights reflected on the terrace glass, creating a mosaic of color and light. The gentle breeze carried a sense of calm and possibility, a promise that their lives had intersected for a reason. Emily felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. Her courage had been recognized, her bravery rewarded, and a subtle bond had been forged. Meanwhile, Richard Caldwell, the man responsible for countless moments of doubt and fear in Sophie's life, no, Emily's life, had been completely removed from the equation. His presence irrelevant in the wake of true heroism and authentic connection. As the night deepened, Jonathan and Emily remained on the terrace, speaking quietly about life, values, and the unexpected paths that brought them together. Lily's laughter drifted faintly from the penthouse, a reminder of why courage mattered, why kindness mattered, and why trust had the power to transform lives. In that quiet moment, Emily realized something profound. A single act of bravery, performed without expectation of reward, could ripple through lives in ways unimaginable. And Jonathan realized that sometimes the people who touch your life most profoundly are those who arrive unexpectedly, in moments of crisis, and stay quietly, leaving a lasting impression on your heart. The story closed with a cinematic sense of closure. Lily safe and happy, Emily recognized and appreciated, Jonathan wiser and emotionally open, and a subtle, slow-burning romantic connection beginning between them, built on respect, trust, and shared experience. A single heroic act had altered destinies, forming bonds that would endure, long after the night had faded into the city's quiet hum.